Alright, folks. Welcome back, everyone. 皆さん、おかえりなさい。今日は336日目です。It's day 336. Today we have our leap day, so we're going to do some... I'm go look through the burn items. We have like 1,511. Give it maybe like hour. Probably focus on kunyomi. Apply some of our shorthand. Take some notes. Let's clear out our review. Our few review here.
融合
Google
分離
分離
離婚
離婚
離れる
離れる
なめる
離れる
融
融
資
資 Alright. Alright. Let's hop into our burn stuff. Okay.
追いかける
追いかける
女神
女神
都会
国会 Okay. Oh, like okay.
共通点
共通点 Like it's like a common point. Alright, that's fine. Commonality, yeah. Oh, probably. Okay.
と
と
寒い
寒い Heck.
林
よし
同期中
同期中 Right. Sinking. Okay. Sinking. Okay. You feel unproductive watching me be productive? Still stuck on triangle stuff? Keep on working at the triangle stuff.
気持ち
Let's see.
親しい
Force? Uh-oh. What the force? Like, no. Like on the... Something makes me want to type do. Oh. That's because it is do. It's toil and all that other stuff too. Okay. Oh. Jiken.
実験
Jiken. Okay. I want to write something for this, probably. Uh,
使う
oh. I don't know how common Scott is. I don't think so. Yeah, not that common. Yeah, 親しい. Alright, so let's go over our things. Leader, mouth, X, and do like leader, Slender Man, mouth, let's say, imagine it, X, broom, brown, use, okay, sure, okay, so ooh, you, and money to use to ka, no, you and the leader say to meet at the X with brooms to clean the grounds. Using 2 cars. Okay. Not sure if you remember, but hear me out. Grass noises, interesting thought process. Yeah. Uh-huh.
読む
Yomu.
放送する
Sousuru. what? I guess to transmit maybe works. This is to like broadcast out, yeah. Send out is fine.
Onsen.
And Aizu. For whatever reason, Aizu just felt right. It's probably like a guide or instruction, diagram, illustration, or sign, or signal, yes. Battlefield. No. Battle. Or war. Then thought the other one was Q. Or competition. I'll come back to this.
Shoku.
Shoku. It's something like that. Beginning level, beginner level, yeah. Oh.
進行。
進行。Okay. 私自身。私人。Think? Huh.
私自身
Okay, so there is a she in there. Alright. Watashi jishin. Watashi jishin. Oops.
技能 不良
Oh. Is that excuse? Oh, I misspelled excuse.
陽気
Yoki? What the Yoki? Like, good vibes. It's like good vibes, cheerful. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Good vibes.
基本
習う
Alright. Oops. Are meanings often more difficult than reads for me? No. Meanings are still easier, but I prioritize read first. Oh boy. What the breathe? Breath. How to breath. Oh, no. Wait. Yes. How to breath. Might want to write something for this. You know, something makes me want to type iku. Okay. That's not it. Oh, no, wait. That's not breath. No, that's not breath at all. Actually, something else. Although, did that just work? Hold up. Did the other thing work? Intriguing. Oh, no. This is definitely breath. I'll probably have to come back to this. Don't want to linger too long. Taiyo. Kanemochi. Don't you dare do this. You heck. Wait. Oh wait. No. Heckin' saltwater fish. There's two. Really should stick to one. One is this. I think this one is the like say umizakana.
Umizakana.
Umizakana. Or ocean fish, whichever. Oh, tennosei.
天皇制
That's special. Tennosei. Oh, okay. Oh. Heck. No. Yes?
と
Oh, okay. Fine.
英語
Oops. That's requests. Shokuki? No. Oh no. Oh no. This is I think it's utensil, right? Oh, utensil is special. Go back to the Oh no, it's not actually. We just had to shorten it, right? It's not that special.
食器
Choki. It's still a utensil though. Or is it not? Oh yeah, tableware, yeah. Fine. Utensil is good enough. Seikaku. What? No.
Ojo.
What did I type the first 3 times? That's weird. Huh. I thought I typed the same thing 3 times in a row. Shoka Furio. Oh, really? Oh, Furio.
Shouka Furio.
Oh, Furio. Oh. Shoka Furio.
海
I
藻
saw. Like Oh, wait. This is better. Oh, really? Thoughts? Return thoughts? Oh. Recollection. I'm okay with that. It's fine. Oops.
Bukkyo.
I missed the extra Y, extra K. Bukyo.
合う
Oh,
骨。
oh no, what the bundle? It's not so good. Bundle. Oh, it's like tabe or tabi. What? Interesting. Haba.
束。
Haba. Oh, it's up there. Haba.
ま。
足し算
Ashizan.
岩。 売る。 九州。
Kyushu.
英和。
Ewa. Like Western, the West. Ewa? Oh, no. Just kidding. English. Okay. Hey. Mukashi.
昔。 空港。
Yuko. Yeah. Favorite point. Uh. Or is that just institution? We're just gonna use institution instead.
し
She.
線路。
Sendo. I mean, all of them are fine. Yeah, that makes sense. The institution would be one of them.
「住民
Yeah. Ukeireru.
銀色
重い
Omoi. Oh. What? Oh.
想
Shote.
定
It's kind of like decided. Assumption, yeah.
神道
Shinto.
実
Jitsu. Bang bones. Heck. Uh-oh. Wait, remember what bones are. All I can think about is Hone right now. Why did I think of goo? Lucky. Uh-oh, it's Kota. Oh. Not Kota. Huh. I have to come back to the
性
営
病
業 営業 営業 Oh, oh right. I forgot the sex part. Oh, just kidding.
Nanto
Oh.
処方
Shoho. Or I guess like initial. Or like it's to like it's like initial. Like basics, yeah. Just initial steps. That's literally what that actually really says. Let's go write foundations. I'm not sure if foundations is basic. Oh, what was the read on it? It makes me want to type like you really do a lot of vocabulary to learn. You really do have a lot of vocab to learn what kanji you're working on. Huh, lots of unfamiliar words you see, you go through with. You lost some thoughts there. You really do have a lot of vocabulary to learn what kanji you're working on. Uh-huh. Lots of unfamiliar words you see, you go through with familiar vocabulary. With familiar kanji. Lots of unfamiliar words you see, you go through with. You see me go through a familiar vocabulary? Lots of familiar words. You see me go through with familiar kanji. Because you really do have a lot of vocabulary words to learn with kanji. Something doesn't make sense there. If you have a lot of vocabulary words to learn with the kanji, you would then have a lot of familiar words with unfamiliar kanji. No, like I see you go through words you've never seen, but you recognize a lot of kanji used individually. Yeah. So it would be the other way. Like that doesn't track. The opposite would happen. If you have a lot of vocabulary words to learn with the kanji you're working on. Oh, you're saying you have a lot. You have to learn a lot of vocabulary with kanji you're working on. Oh, I see. You're going to have to learn a lot of vocabulary words with kanji you're working on. Oh, okay. You said I really do have, as in you already have a lot of vocab words to learn with the kanji you're working on. Yeah, you wrote it in the present tense, not the future tense. So you kind of tried to phrase in the future perfect, but future perfect needs a gerund. So you're really going to have a lot of vocabs to learn with the kanji you're working on, huh? Lots of unfamiliar words you see, you go through it. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. It made sense to you? That's fine. It wasn't a discussion between you and her though. I think that didn't make sense. Because you really do have a lot of vocab to learn. That doesn't mean future perfect to me. Or maybe it's your colloquialism. This is like almost screams proverbs. I don't know how is this phrased. You do sometimes think your English read in a confusing way too? Over text? I mean, the feeling's mutual. Like when you said you do sometimes think your English reads in a confusing way too? That you sometimes do think my English reads, like you're putting sometimes in front, you split your verb phrases with an adverb in between. That is not something I do. I place the adverb in front of the verb phrase. So like, I sometimes do think your English reads in a confusing way. As opposed to I do sometimes think your English reads in a confusing way. And then the other one you did, I really do have, which is actually more common than the other one for me. And I would disagree with you, sort of. The thing that's confusing you about what I type in English is not related to the structure of the sentence, but the ideas that are connected with each other. Because I already said that I abbreviate most of my comments, expecting that you're connecting the logic. But I don't really think my English specifically reads in a confusing way. Does I really have a lot make sense? I really have a lot. I disagree with James. But James, in my opinion, when you say perfectly correct, I don't think things are perfectly correct. But that's your opinion. The reason we have this discussion is that they're not perfectly correct. There really isn't perfectly correct colloquialism. So if you want to prescribe to some perfectly correctness when it comes to speaking colloquialism between people, I think that is an incredibly myopic and narrow-minded way of looking at language. Like, both Mika and I have perfectly correct grammar, but that doesn't mean it's perfectly correct. We still have misunderstandings in communication preferences, despite having perfectly correct grammar. Can I find an example of something that you found hard to read from DMs and ask about what it was conveying? Sure. Oh, almost at 85 stuff. Past. Or yesterday. Sure. That's old. Imagine attach a flag is one that makes sense but was confusing to you. I don't remember what imagine tag a flag is. It looks like I missed a word when I was typing. Like that looks like a typo to me. I must have missed a word. It's confusing because I missed a word. Yeah, so you're confusing typos. I meant you're confusing typos when I'm typing very rapidly. It's probably imagine attaching a flag. So yes, I make typos. So it is incorrect. That's an error I made. Drawing attentions with I do is commonly used for emphasis. But that's perfectly correct grammar. Your point still stands, James. Not that it has anything to do with what we were talking about. So you picked up a mistake. I missed the ing. It's imagine attaching a flag. Yeah, you can find another one if you want, Mika. Like if you I sometimes do think. I said it should be I sometimes do think. Yeah. That can be interpreted in different ways. I sometimes do think is where the emphasis is on sometimes. It's partitioning the verb phrase from the adverb. And then you say I do is commonly used for emphasis. Yes, it can be that too. So you're using confirmation bias, in my opinion, to prove what now? The fact that we both have different preferences in the way we speak? Or are you suggesting that I sometimes do think is grammatically erroneous? Then, James, you might have a point. But being pedantic about the way we prefer to speak and interpret things, that is what you did yesterday. Is this another mistake instance? Or maybe so too. When we agree that it's... Yes, there's a typo. There's a typo. So when we agree that it feels good. So I started an idea, but I didn't complete it. So then I needed to add an S. So it feels good, but not much is learned. And you interpret it as when we agree that it feels good, but not much is learned. Yeah, that's when we agree that it feels good. Oh, then when we agree that it feels good, not much is learned. Yes. So this would not be correct because I wasn't trying to make an opposite thing. So likely that I added a case. How come mistakes often skip over whole things like ing and ed? Because I'm rapidly typing ideas out. Because I make mistakes when I type out ideas. If you want me to slow down, then I can write longer paragraphs, and then we won't be chatting anymore. We will be writing essays to each other. So like, if you say, yeah, it is mutual, when you're saying, yeah, it is mutual over text is a fragment. I do sometimes think your English read in a confusing way. So if you want to remove all those things, then we can write in complete sentences and perfectly correct grammar if you like. I think James is making a pedantic point in which that people talk in perfectly correct grammar. No, it's not. You were just curious as it differs from what I often typo. Yeah, see, like, then we could say something like, is typo a verb? There are many ways to go about this, and my personal take on this is you can choose to be like James and pedantically point out all those things, and we can work on our grammar. So if you want us to speak entirely in perfect grammar, then it's fine. It's fine to make mistakes with typing as long as the message and that you were criticizing her grammar. I was not criticizing her grammar. I was criticizing her wording that makes it confusing to me. That's very different. You wanted it to be about her grammar. What she did when she said it was read like, when we agree that it feels good but not much is learned, she reworded what I said to interpret what she thinks I'm saying. I thought I would reword it so then I can tell her what I think I'm saying. Please don't put, like, James, you really need to stop projecting yourself onto something. You rather stick to short messages, just might ask occasional questions? Yeah, so we can clear up the confusion, which is what we do most of the time. You ask like, oh, this is confusing, and I'm like, yes, so we'll say it in a different way. I didn't criticize her grammar, James. I said what I would prefer to do. You need to stop projecting and creating conflict between people. If I were to suggest something, you're creating conflict where there isn't conflict. When I said I typically would separate the phrases from the adverb, I didn't say you should do that. That is very different. If you want to make argument between people, you should speak for yourself. Like, that is, in my opinion, incredibly disrespectful. You're not telling me what my intent is. I literally said I usually do that. Just like when you say things, you think other people should do what you do and what you think is right. You're entitled to your opinions. I agree. She has perfectly acceptable grammar. I didn't say she had bad grammar, did I? And I didn't even say her grammar is wrong. You inferred that and you implied that. Just like when you implied what is healthy sleep yesterday, what you imply, things like that is different from criticism. I was sharing a preference, not a criticism. Very, very It's really worth distinguishing. You can go back if you want. I did not say her grammar was wrong. It takes someone who thinks perfectly grammar and like exactness and stuff that would suggest that disagreeing with something or having different preferences mean the opposite is true too. When I have different preferences, that doesn't mean whatever she said is wrong.
島
You can, Mika, you can still point out, give me more examples, but so far, I pretty much made errors in those typing. So it was confusing because I made errors. I mean, the amount of volume that I type in a short amount of time will be prone to errors, and that's probably going to happen as long as I continue to type rapidly about my ideas. So I don't typically go back all the time to correct all my typos or my split ideas. So if something becomes confusing, you can probably ask to clarify, which you do most of the time, as well as if you do see a typo or an error, hopefully that one day I become less error prone. But I do imagine that a lot of the confusion comes from because I just typed incorrectly. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, you know, ideally, most of the time when I'm typing, I would like to think my error rate is not that high, but I'm gonna tell you now, I never said I never gave the impression that I type really, really well. Right. I spend more time speaking, a lot more than typing. And if you can give other examples, it would be fun to see how many errors I've made. I think I make an average typing error like at least 5% typing errors. So if I typed like 3,000 words, 5% of it will probably have some missing gerunds or something. You probably noticed some speech errors on your part. Was that the case? You definitely type more than speak. Yeah, so I can tell you now, one thing that's probably can become apparent for me is that I speak a lot. I speak a lot. And I usually type or try to type the way I speak. And that means that even if I had a low margin of error, I still think my margin of error is about 5%. That means that if I type so many words, 5% is a lot. Like 5% of 3,000 is a lot of errors. Like that's a lot of errors. So I wouldn't be surprised that you would be confused here and there. So we have to talk through those things. Alternatively, right, we can always slow down. You notice that if I don't type anything and I only respond with 1 or 2 words, most of those things make sense because I'm not typing in a manner that is explicit. To make a comparison, for example, whenever you have to write your schedule, for example, and you write all your thoughts, right? You would have, like, to compare us, you would have this, and this, right? And this. My errors would be like this, So there's a higher chance that there's going to be a break in the ideas. But you would have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you would have like a cluster of 2 ideas here sometimes. Mine would be these ideas clustered together. %5 of words sound a bit high. Maybe 5% of messages are small. Only a small portion of those are significant in a way that makes things confusing. Yes. So what I'm illustrating here is in a big chunk, it will be more noticeable. We can do an exercise. We can do an exercise to demonstrate what I'm saying. In a larger idea, smaller errors, in my opinion, are less tolerable. But we haven't exchanged roles yet. There hasn't been the closest example I can have between us when you have to explain something to me is when you're like recalling your day and your journal related things. So yes, it's probably gonna come up more often than not. And I'm giving myself leeway. I actually think it's either less than 5%, but 5% is significant to make these errors. And I have known and worked on doing these long things to improve on the error. The thing is, when you say yes, maybe, good idea, I think this is good, like in rapid succession, that's perfectly fine, right? Now, when we get into when you have the opportunity to write like A leads to B, but not C, then the errors become less tolerable, which is the example that we had. It is strengthened by knowing. I assume this would be strengthened. I don't remember what it is. I'm guessing it could be experience. I'm gonna assume the context is it. So it is strengthened. So from whatever this it is, either experience or wisdom, maybe emotions. So whatever the previous context is gets stronger through knowing things, or through knowing or being aware. I could have used the word aware instead. Is probably what I'm guessing this sentence is about. And yes, I missed strengthened. Or actually, yes. No. Yes. I actually don't know. I actually don't know if it's ED or not. It is probably ED. Yes. Yeah, so it would be in the past tense. Yep. So that would be a tense agreement, right? So the error here that I made is, I'm not sure if this is more of a mistake on a way of typing I'm used to. What solutions I can come up with if I don't understand the problem? What solutions I can come up with? Did I really say? Okay. I can versus can I? That's a good question. I have no idea. So I'm not making a question here. So what's the difference between what I can come up with versus what can I come up with? Interesting. I'm not sure this is more of a message or a way of typing I'm used to. Huh. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know what the difference. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. What can I come up with is a direct question. Yeah, I'm not positing a question. Yeah, what I can come up with is a statement. It's an embedded question or a noun phrase. So yeah, I do intend on, if I can't understand my problem, right, which is the problem you are having, if I can't understand my problem, right, which is the problem you're having, it's irrelevant, right? So, oh, and there's a lot of commas and stuff. So, this is what I mean. I actually do mean this. I don't mean this. This is a question, and it would end up being a question. This is a noun phrase because I wanted to say you should be able to do this. So what you can come up with is what you can come up with. Hang on. Yeah, what you can come up with is related to not if you don't understand the problem, right? So what you can figure out was limited by if you don't understand the problem. So if you don't understand a problem, thinks it's not what can you come up with. I'm not asking you a question about what can you come up with. I'm saying the stuff that you come up with is tough because you don't understand your problem. So these two are actually grammatically correct, but my sentiment is I'm not trying to ask you what can you come up with. I'm asking what you have came up with, or like what you can come up with. I honestly, I can't even really discern between these two. So like if you wrote what can I come up with versus what I can come up with, I'm trying to figure out if I would interpret that differently. Both of these are used, by the way, and potentially a case of grammar you don't see often. I'm not sure if so hear me out. What can I come up with? I do hear this. I will try to put myself in your shoes. What can I come up with sounds like a question to myself, if you know what I mean. So like the only time I feel like I would, or the common time that I would feel like I would say this, what can I come up with, is if I'm talking to myself. Like, what can I come up with? So what can I come up with if I don't understand the problem? Right? But what I can come up with would be a noun phrase that can be to someone else, is what I might have, is why I probably worded this way. But I don't really know, actually. I would ask myself, what can I come up with if I don't understand the problem? For sure. I think I was more talking about what you, but the statement doesn't, it's confusing because I just realized that I can be referring to a hypothetical I or myself. Oh yeah, that is an interesting point. That's a pretty good one, actually. According to our favorite AI source, or one of our favorite AI source, what can I come up with is a direct question and ends with a question mark. It uses standard question syntax, can before the subject I. What can I come up with, right? What I come up with is an embedded question or a noun phrase. It uses statement syntax. Subject I before the auxiliary verb can, which is the grammar thing for sure, and cannot stand alone as a complete direct question. So that's why I added the qualifier if I don't understand the problem. And that is a fragment, by the way. It doesn't complete the clause because we're talking not in like full sentences. It usually functions as a part of a larger sentence. What I can come up with, show me what I can come up with if I don't understand the problem, right? It feels so odd having English broken down like a foreign language. Every day. Honestly, Mika, this is hello there, Bree. Hello. Welcome. How have you been? Have you started your work week already? I don't think so, right? Or you might have. I still break down English grammar each and every day. Like, I still read over the things I write each and every day. I mean, like, for example, it feels so odd having English broken down like a foreign language. That sounds fine. And do I say that? No, see, like, oh, here's something that would probably separate us. I don't use, when I'm talking colloquially, I don't use it too much unless the other person uses it. Or like, he, like she. So instead, whenever I'm explaining things, it can be a little uncomfortable because instead of it, I would say like, having English broken down may feel weird. So like, I remove the subject from it. So I'm saying having English broken may feel weird, as opposed to I feel things. So whenever I'm explaining something, I have a habit of personifying the thing that's happening, which can lead to confusion because then it may also mean like, how can having English broken down feel weird? This is not doing the feeling. I skip I sometimes. I skip I because of convenience. By the way, it's a Japanese thing as well. It's also a Chinese thing. I don't know if you noticed that, but when you skipped inferred subjects. So I save time by not constantly referring to it, he, she, they, because you should be carrying the subject with you. That's a consequence of it can be explained because of context-based communication. Yeah, I do skip by sometimes. It does happen. You try not to skip I to avoid confusing other people, and knowing that you're fine with it will be something you keep in mind when DMing you. But yeah, did notice, yeah. So that is something I do for colloquial speaking. Yes, today was the 6 hour and 15-minute shift. Oh, you're already back. This was the roughest shift yet. You love crying. Your feet hurt so bad. Have you been off your shift now, or are you just getting back? Did you take a nap? 6 hours and 15 minutes. Is that your longest shift yet? Congrats on making it through. Not the greatest having your feet hurt. You didn't say anything about your back, so I imagine your back's doing okay. Yeah, when I'm colloquialing, I do have a habit of avoiding repeating the subject. And then if I'm explaining something, it's often the relationship between A and B as opposed to the person. Which is, we'll just dub it I. The foot pain from returning to society truly does suck. Well, Bree has some physical limitations and acclimations that she's working on right now, because she's been leaning back into working or having to be on her feet for extended time. She's doing really well. At least I feel like she's doing really well. So here's the thing, Mika. And I feel like we'll bring in James's projected conflicts. Like, I can change all of that. So what I mean by that is, instead of matching... Oh yeah, that's fine. I feel like James is... this is for record keeping. It doesn't matter if the person's here or not. We continue carrying the examples. That's what's important about experiences. Matching. I can stop matching. I can stop matching your usage and use a different syntax. So what I mean is, the points that you remember that are confusing, it can become more confusing if you want, where I would type in a syntax that doesn't match your syntax. So like the stuff that you're pointing out in my writing is how I'm matching your writing, or how I'm attempting to match your writing. It could be different. We could be talking in a different way. Like, we could not match energy. And a way to not match energy is, in my opinion, to do what James does. What's an example of it? You didn't attempt to match it. Anytime I'm explaining something. So pretty much every time you said it was confusing. Because you haven't explained a lot of things to me yet. I did not try to match your energy when explaining things. Do you want me to match your energy when explaining things? Yeah. It sucks. Yeah, it sucks. Try to feel better. So, I can do these things to explain things. Like, oh, you know, when you explain to me, I don't know why. I don't know why this sucks. Yeah, I don't either. So, what I typically do is I would try to explain why I don't either. Like, what I mean is, I try to explain this stuff. And when I try to explain this stuff, those are the examples that you are highlighting. So those are the things that I'm working on. However, I could match your explanation. Like, I don't know. This is rough. Yeah, I know. It's rough. It is rough. So I could use similar syntax like this, it, I, and then use things like rough instead of saying like the roughness may be because of X. Why not just say it is? I can say it is and explain nothing. But if you say it is, it explains even less. So that's me trying to match your energy. So like even then you have to say I know because you clarify all the time. Right? You have to say I know. You just said you use I a lot to clarify who it is. So I added I know because that's the habit that you use. You say I know this, I know that. I feel like this, I think this is rough. To clarify things. So you can't say just it is, because then you're doing what I'm doing, which is inferring the subject. So if I'm matching your syntax, I would have to say, I know it is rough. Or I think it is rough. So instead, most of the time, I would say something like this. The roughness may be because of X. So what I would do is I would emphasize on the roughness. Because that's the point you're sharing with me. You think the day is rough. So I'm gonna try to explain maybe, or try to associate something with it. So like maybe because the roughness can be related to sleep. So then it's inferred that the subject is you, your roughness, your sleep. But I could do it differently. I could say your roughness may be related to your lack of sleep. But hear me out. I'm not suggesting it's only you. I also feel roughness when I lack sleep, for example. So I could do that. And then this would be, in my opinion, closer to if we were talking the same way. If we were talking the same way, which is really good strategy, by the way. Like, it's an excellent strategy to talk in the same way. If we talk in the same way, that means we agree most of the time. So then it would be how I feel versus how you feel. And we can change our tone of voice. So when I explain things, I could explain it about how I feel and how you feel, as opposed to talking about the roughness itself. Usually try to over clarify because others do, but it seems that's not something bothering you. I mean, I figure it out. That's what we do, right? We figure it out. Or you could be like James and say that people have to be perfectly adherent to something. And then always assume a wrong and a right. And then whenever someone has have a differing opinion, it means the other person's opinion is wrong. We can do that. I mean, that is something that I'm not entirely sure if you enjoy doing. So, but I think you need to sleep more. Versus sleep is beneficial. Or sleep may be beneficial. These are very two different things. I would typically say sleep may be beneficial. Yeah, so most of the time I focus on the problem. Now, if you like it to be personal, then that's kinda something that I'm not exactly very comfortable with, because I don't want to make it personal. James made it personal immediately. Like, James made a statement and he deliberately decided to make it personal between both of us. Like, he told me that I criticized your grammar. I commented on your grammar. I never said your grammar was bad. Right. So he used the word criticize. I don't think your grammar is bad. We have a disagreement on how we're interpreting each other's information. So that is why I had to put a stop to it. Because I think, generally speaking, trying to elicit and incite personal grievances with each other and the way people talk, that is kind of how I felt most of the time when someone like that would speak. Like, oh, have you looked at a native speaker yet? It's like, well, yeah, maybe I'll get to it when I get to it. Yes, you took a nap for a couple hours. You got off at 2. Oh, so you got some good rest. Your back hurts slightly, but it was mostly your feet. Okay, that's a great how do you feel about that, Bree? I think that's a great thing that your back doesn't hurt. I honestly, I was kind of really worried about your back because you did mention a lot more about your back. Feet, it can be very, very problematic, but I think back is a lot more severe because it can stop you from sleeping. So that's pretty nice to hear that your back is only slightly. This shift was as long as your first day shift, but that day was definitely your back that hurt. It kind of flipped exactly when we part. Nice, nice. So it sounds like you don't have any problem sleeping. That's, I think that's a big win. You have to work tomorrow, right? Is this the straight day? So like this is the first of 3 days, right? You're trying to match how I talk to You're trying to match how I talk to people, and that's a result of me trying to match how others talk as to not confuse them. Yeah. Yeah. Weirdly enough, I followed that. Yeah, weirdly enough for me, I'm starting to follow the way you're typing. It takes a while. I mean, like, I'm not going to, like, you heard me multiple times, right? Like, I read something, I'm like, I don't follow you. Is there something missing? Maybe there's something missing. That's how I respond to things, right? So then you clarify and then you reword. I'm like, oh, I still don't get it. Is it like, does this mean like sometimes before? That's different. That's trying to understand someone. Unlike, in my opinion, what just transpired, where someone would critique as a third wheel, like saying, oh, you just want that person to speak in your own language. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is, I don't understand what you have written. No, let's not do perfect or wrong. Yeah, that's so if you're wondering, I can explain some of this stuff. So when we're talking, if I have to respond with an emotion, if we have to respond with, and hear me out, or sort of hear me out, there's a communication style. So I would say there's often a communication style. The first communication style is you match energy, right? You match quote unquote communication styles. You can also choose to project your desired communication style. Now, a lot of times there's one step in here that is automatically assumed, and that is both parties are mutually open to it. However, oftentimes this is the step that gets the mutual open. So when you first try to match styles, which is trying to understand each other, right? By breaking down the points of confusion between the two. This then can lead to a projected communication style. Basically, like once you are able to match the mutual openness, then we can adopt each other's style whenever we please. But if we don't communicate on how we're different, it doesn't matter how good our own personal communication style is. We would still be out of touch with each other, right? So at some point, this is a fun learning experience. But usually I do this first. However, since I don't have an example of you explaining things, right? I don't have too many examples of you explaining things. I don't know what that is like. So then what I ended up doing is I defaulted to my usual way of communicating. So then there's like two intents. If I'm projecting emotions, I would say, sounds good. Good work. And then you would counter, it's not good work. It's like, no, it sounds bad. So if you want the times when I'm like trying to sound very reasonable, like something like that, oh, that's good, you would counter by saying, no, it's not that good. It's not good. And then I'm gonna counter by, how so? Right? These are very common phrases. So how so? And you're like, I don't know. Huh. This is where I stop, by the way. This is where I stop saying I don't stop at I don't know. But I could say, oh, I don't know either. I don't know either. And then the conversation would end. If it helped, you could try explaining something in DMs tonight. Any ideas for what to explain that you'd be able to do? Server growth? That could be interesting. I would love to hear your history of your server growth. Now, yeah, I would probably get a pretty good idea of what how you explain things. Sure, we can do that. I mean, you can type it all out now if you want. Right, you can do that now if you want. And nothing's stopping you from forming all of your things. So, depending on how well or how fragmented or how you form ideas, I could most definitely explain things in that same cadence. Right? And know that, like, here's one thing that I want to raise awareness about. While that is a mental exercise, right? That is a mental exercise. We have two common interests right now. There are two common interests. One of the common interests is we may reduce maybe confusion of syntax by trying to compromising on the way we phrase things, on phrasing. Like, for example, what I just wrote here would be not something I expect from you, right? So I wouldn't say it this way. So a common something like, one of our common interest is to reduce or potentially reduce confusion, and we'll probably use confusion by compromising on phrasing. So that is something that I would be very surprised you don't find a bit confusing. And also, I would be very surprised if you phrase something like this when you're describing server growth. Right? Because one of is not something that I've seen you used before in this manner, of a subset of groups, and then using a probability modifier linking the result that we want to a gerund phrase of the action. So this would be confusing, in my opinion. This would be a odd way of reading something, at least my impression that I've been given by you. Like, if you constructed a sentence like this, it would be something that I would be, maybe funnily enough, pleasantly surprised. This would be, say, how can I reword this to match the current cadence? We have, we agree, maybe like, or no, I don't think you would, man, you and I, maybe like you and I agree, or you might just simply say, you might actually say, I agree, to clarify, so I, and then just agree, and then you're assuming you're agreeing with me, so that's imposed. I agree. Maybe like, if we work on it, there will be less confusion. Or yes, there will be less confusion. Or something like that. It's like, I agree. If we work on it, there will be less confusion. That's probably what would be very reasonable in what I would expect you would say at the moment. I would, this would be far more natural for me. One of our common interests, potentially reduce confusion by compromising on phrasing. You wouldn't put agree in front of that, one or the other? One or the other. Oh, so you would just say, what do you mean by one or the other? Agree or the explanation? Okay. So you're doing a lot of inference. So that's where I get confused, because that's a leap of logic. For me, that's a leap of logic, because when you say, if we work on it, there will be less confusion, I don't know if you're agreeing with me. Like, I don't know what you mean. Like, is that a yes? Is that a no? Do you think that, like, what are we gonna do? So how are we gonna work on it? Is it me or is it you? So then you go back to the whole, like, you worry, so you add I as a clarifier, right? But hear me out. I don't think that's I don't think that's a problem to me. So I wouldn't say anything, even if you simply said, if we worked on it, there will be less confusion. It's inferred. However, you think that's weird when you're reading my statements. Like this right here, I would remove this, and it would probably, like, I would even remove this too. I would say common interest potentially reduce confusion by compromising on phrasing. What common interest? Our common interest. But it would be inferred that it would be our common interest. I could put our common interest here. As in, this would make it personal. Yeah. This, if I remove this, it's no longer personal. It means common interest in general. So this would be a general statement. If we use our, it means us. So whenever you and I agree, I'm inferring that you and I agree, I would use us, we, and our. That's an assumption. So that's assuming. And then if I use you and I have a common interest, that means you and me are usually separate, not together in this. You explaining something will definitely be useful. Yeah, now now hear me out. There will be a time when we match, right? When we match. The question is, if we do that, do you want a change? Or do you want the same? Is what I have been juggling with in the background. Like, yeah, James sort of indirectly raises a point a lot of times. This person wants to preserve their opinions. I'm not giving you my opinion. So until I say I don't, it's not only my opinion. And the reason I guess I already explained to you why the reason by this is because I, a lot of times, mean that it's personal. So there is a large reason that I don't use personal things. It's exactly what James illustrated. He spoke for me. Like, he think I thought your grammar was incorrect. Or your grammar is not good. That was his motivation to present to present his opinions by criticizing my actions. That's something that I don't do very often. And it's intentional that I do not do that often, because it's not about me, it's usually about you, and that's what's important, at least to me. Let's see, 12:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. Okay, so you got evening or afternoon shift, and usually your feet don't prevent you from sleeping, but today definitely you sat there and had a good cry and had to take some pain relief. Took about an hour for you to feel relief enough to be able to try and sleep. Oh, so even your feet can keep you from sleeping. Well, hopefully it doesn't get too bad. Oh, and it's next week that you have 3 weeks. Oh, 3 days in a row. Okay, so it's not this week. This week you have the... I see. Well, hopefully you can rest up. You got any interesting work stories, Bree? Any interesting work stories? I'm gonna do 11 more and then move on to Hanzi Hero. Maybe you talk to like making things personal often, but you don't have an issue with either way. You know people that do both. Yeah, and a lot of times the things that you find personal are the things that end up being negative. Like yesterday when James made a comment about your sleep schedule. It's kind of a little bit humorous because before then, you know, a little earlier, he made a comment like, I don't know about your situation or the details of your situation. However, sleep is correlated. Maintaining a proper circadian rhythm is why sleep hygiene is important. That is how someone who would want to project what is right but not directly tell you that they're criticizing your habits, right? And it's kind of humorous in my opinion because he did the very same thing when I was trying to explain why I'm confused and how I have preferences on how to word things. He assumed that because I offer a differing opinion, that it is criticizing whatever you're doing because it's not good. Right? So there are ways to take into like how people interpret what is personal and what is not, even if we're not being personal or not. So like I'm not saying the way that I'm speaking is going to prevent it from being personal anyways. It's probably going to be a mix of both regardless. You didn't like how the yesterday conversation went, like how you didn't like how the yesterday conversation went, like how he went about it. That's pretty much how I saw it as well, but I didn't go over the I read the conversation. I didn't really make any comments about it until afterwards, right? Until I made more of a blanketed statement, more so that sometimes people don't talk to each other or with each other. They tend to talk at each other, and that's usually the topic that I try to speak about. Like when someone tells me what I'm doing and how I'm feeling, that's when it gets a little personal. And I often feel like in order to prevent that from happening or to mitigate that from happening, you can talk about the nature of the problem and the nature of the grammar in order to prevent something personal. But that didn't stop that person, despite that person's efforts to try to sound like they're being factual and objective. They made it personal by saying how another person feels about another person, or like what a person's opinion is about another person. That's not that's when it gets personal. Like for example, am I saying that James thinks you're wrong about sleep hygiene? I didn't say that. I said he believes that sleep is related to maintaining proper circadian rhythm. It made him feel bad when his sleep schedule was bad, as he shared yesterday openly in the public. So that's a fact he was willing to share. So then we can use that information. I didn't say that you were wrong in wording the way you word it. I was explaining how I would word it in order to understand it. So those are two very different things. One is concerning about how I cannot understand you well enough. The other is more, oh, I know better, so therefore you should behave the way I want you to. That, to me, is what James did multiple times. Like, oh, Mika has perfectly correct grammar. It's like, I agree. That's exactly what I said first, right? So I agree. But perfect grammar doesn't mean that two people are not going to have miscommunications. The point was we were trying to overcome some miscommunications despite having correct grammar. That to me is why I had an issue with that. You use facts to create animosity. That's like creating beef where there isn't even beef. Like why what do you hope to achieve? If you do run into a situation where your wording is confusing, let me know. You're quite interested now. Interesting. I will let you know, but I'll let you know in small doses. Because it can be very exhausting. I actually don't know you well enough to want to be criticized in that way, quote unquote criticized, right? Or be known for that. Like it creates apprehension. Like that's why I mean by, okay, like James might hang out every once in a while. That's fair. But if that's his relationship with someone, where you just sit there and wait for him to make a comment about everything you say and be pedantic about it, that can create incredible exhaustion. So maybe I'll point out things that I'm confused about here and there, but I actually try not to most of the time, because that's people don't keep score. Like you'll start keeping score and things can get really exhausting. The way I go about it a lot of times is, well, if I misunderstand you and confuse, the greatest thing I can do is I can try better and then apologize for misunderstanding you. That is something that is a blend. It's a mix. Like it gives the other person, in my opinion, it gives the other person the feeling that the other person is trying, as well as fallible. But they're not there to dictate how you behave, because then you're manipulating the other person. You have the apology for misunderstanding you way of thinking about it. Yes. But hear me out. There's more to that. It's you apologize for misunderstanding you, but I can explain to you how I tried. It's not the same as in my opinion, a blanketed apology without an explanation. Like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. I'm sorry, you were just talking too much. Like, I'm sorry, I just didn't have enough time. That's apologizing for misunderstanding, but more of a blanketed response. So then I agree, sometimes that can also, I'm not sure if you've ever encountered this, but there are incredibly massively apologetic ways to offset things. And no, we would be talking about it. I would be explaining to you what I'm apologizing for, what I have done incorrectly. So I would say, I apologize. There was a misunderstanding that I made regarding what you said earlier. This is what the misunderstanding that I made. Could you clarify on this next time? If you have time, right? But it was a misunderstanding that I made and where I made it. Not apologizing as though I forget what I have misunderstood. That is not how you learn from your mistakes. You do not, in my opinion, improve from that. And behavior that is consistent with that are people who believe that they do something, and as long as they do the right thing, they can continue to behave and not learn from the situation that they learned. I think that's a type of apology that doesn't have accountability, right? Apologizing without accountability is not my cup of tea. You could try to counter argue. You could try to counter argue and ask me, well, are there any times where you can apologize without accountability? And my first thought is, yes, there are places when you're with a stranger in the streets and you have no time to explain. You can definitely find situations that are very regularly occurring, like apologizing on stream, apologizing in chat. These things occur a lot too. Yeah. Time to grab some music and over explain my personal interests. Enjoy stream, been interesting discussing. Yeah, it has been. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if it was mutually interesting and beneficial for others, but you know, a very prominent one. But it certainly raised some very high levels of emotions, and we'll see where we go from there. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Looking forward to reading your personal interest. Let's see. Oh, and it's next week. Okay, nothing too crazy happened today. Did I tell you about the lady from the other day that wanted... Wait, from the other day that wanted me to give her $20? No. Wait. Like, I'm imagining a lady just coming up to you and say, "Can I have $20?" Like, straight up? That's... Yeah, my interest is piqued, Bree. Let me hear. Give me more. You got it. You got my interest. Stable, peace. Fine. We're gonna do 10 of these and then call it a day. 売り手。
売り手
Oh.
開発
Development? Okay. Hmm. Uh.
気温
Yun. Huh. Temperature. Oh, that's Chinese. How do you distribute? I? Oh. Or disperse. Or distribute. Whichever, okay. Oh, I just realized this is bowl. Yummy. Heck! Onyomi. What the onyomi? Wow.
4匹
石
Shina? Shina yatsu? She... Oh no. Diana? No. No, is this like soda? So that's
育つ
人口
春
Alright, we did 100. It's fine. It's like okay. Got sidetracked with some digressions. Hang on. Yeah, so pedantic. Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm interesting. Let me look at the schedule for tomorrow. It's at 17. Okay. Good day. Okay, so this lady actually used to come into Speedway all the time. She was and still is obsessed with touching everything. Oh, anyways, you were opening your drawer till the other day, and she came up as I was weighing my drawer. You had to tell her to move to the other open register because you weren't open yet. Yeah. She clearly saw me weighing the money out. Once she finished, the other person, the guy manager that you were telling you about, walked away to go to something, and she came up to me and holds out a wad of singles and said, "Can you give me a 20 for this?" And I was trying to be nice, so he just said, "I'm sorry, I can't open my drawer without a sale," figuring she'd leave. Nope. She stayed and waited for you to get a customer, and then walked up and said, "I guess I'll wait for you to complete this sale." Then I had to tell her that I didn't have any 20s because you had just opened. She got angry and hopped out the door. Wow. Intriguing. Well, it's nice. I imagine your hello there, Serix. Did you change your name? Or am I not aware who? Wait. I don't recall your username very well. Hello there. Oh, your drama. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You don't use the Twitch account. Oh yeah, that one time. I know. It was that one time. Hey, you're on Twitch today. Oh, we had an interesting discussion today already. It's nice to hear, Bree, that you kept your cool. It sounds like you already have the mentality to handle these things. Do you have a lot of life experience with these type of things? I would say it's been a while. Oh no, it's not have been a while. You kind of encounter this type of thing at when you volunteer at like a anime convention, for example. It does occur from time to time where, for example, here's a little fun little story, I suppose. It's not any particular person. It happens eventually. You know, you have thousands of con goers, right? And eventually by the end of the weekend, I would serve at least 500 plus people. So eventually you would encounter this situation. So in order to get your badge, right? The badge is the ticket. So usually the order of operations. The order of operations is you get to the convention. And then they line up, right? And it's a long line. Like, lining up still sucks. So they have my sympathy. Lining up really sucks. I work in registration, and the thing is, the goal every year is to get faster, like do things as quickly but still safely, right? Registration as fast as. So they line up, and then eventually they get to a booth, which is someone like me who's behind it. They were told in advance, both when they purchase the tickets and all that, like and while they're in line, they're informed multiple times. It's kind of like a TSA kind of thing when you're going into the airport, right? The airport. So they need an ID, a form of like photo ID. Which chat is more active today? Oh, Bree keeps me company. Bree is the sole Twitch conversing person. So whenever I'm talking to like someone, actually a lot of times when you're like talking on YouTube, Bree is like on Twitch. It just so happens. So you need your ID, and the person and the people have to be present. So like you literally have to have the person and the ID of the person who the ticket is registered to, or the badge is registered to, right? Then you have the situations like, oh, well, sorry, like, you know, a person doesn't have an ID, but they have some other way, like a picture, and it's like, sorry, like, we have to do this. So then they get the ID, right? They get the ID, finally, they come back, and then the person's ID that they have is not the person's name in which the badge is. So then they get really angry again, right? They get a little frustrated. It's like, okay, hold up. Let me go grab the person. So they have the person now, right? They have the person now. And then when I go check the ID, it's not that person either. Because someone else purchased it for them. And that does happen quite a bit. The idea is, though, we do, like, I do this type of thing voluntarily, so, like, it's not my job, right? Like, what I mean is, sometimes when you're doing this type of job for a really long time, it can make the staff member, like, kind of cynical and jaded. But since I only do this once a year, we make it work. We figure all this out, and you do it with as much smile or good feelings as possible, and that's kind of what my like alternative version is. It sounds like it's nice that you have a mentality like, oh well, you know, I'm doing this, we're doing this, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can. It's nice to see that it's not necessarily a story that may weigh on you at some point. I think about customer service a lot, largely because, well, for lack of a better word, if you're online, right? If you're online and you're offering a service, it kind of makes it normal to expect self-entitlement, right? And that's not a bad or a good thing, in my opinion, until you can't manage it, which is probably exactly what you witnessed earlier when someone was telling me what I'm doing to another person when I'm talking to that other person. Like that's weird. I think sometimes this bleeds into like credibility and whatnot, right? You have some bystander that is speaking for someone else. I mean, oftentimes the internet would call this like a Karen, right? Sorry. By the way, I know a lot. I've met and know a lot of people who are named Karen, and they are very loving and understanding people. But this is what I often is what happens when you start thinking about people who are self-entitled, or they're even self-entitled or have righteous indignation just because they're right or what they can list. They create animosity where there's no need for animosity. And hopefully your experience, Bree, that you're sharing is one that wasn't something that caused you animosity. Because I think ultimately if you have to do that job, the goal is you find some way of, well, you're sharing it with me now and you're laughing about it, so that sounds to me like you got this in the bag. I think a lot of times coworkers, at least in my opinion, my personal experience is when coworkers and other people that you work around or commonly encounter such frustrations or possible frustrations, grabbing a beer or whatever your choice of beverage is, and then talking about it and then being able to laugh about it is a great way. Oh, you thought it was hilarious? Okay, because it was obvious that you didn't have it yet. She still thought you could materialize it out of thin air. That you should have, like, that sounds like a wonderful personality to be working in, like some sort of customer service related things. That's good, because I can tell you now, personal experience, when people talk about being like a cashier and engaging in these, it can be a really like taxing thing that someone else it builds up over time. Like if I had $1 for any time I heard someone like you say, oh, I thought it was hilarious that you know, like, I mean, what was the person thinking, and laughing about it. There are like 7 or 8 of the 10 people would say, like, you know, I'm really tired. Like, don't people ever read instructions? Like, don't people ever like use their brain to think about things? That type of thing does happen over time when someone spends a lot of time in that. I haven't myself personally been working in a position that has weighed enough on me in which it became a negative thing. Like, for example, when someone keeps telling me that they're dumb and useless, and then, you know, we spend 5 hours a day or like every other day trying to say, oh, well, you know, how about we try something different? Let's work out our whatever it is that we're not connecting on and communicating, and let's think about the stuff. Let's discuss something, right? Discuss something. Let's try to tackle it in a different way, that kind of thing. And that's probably because over time I really disliked, like, I'll share some personal vulnerabilities. I really disliked when I was so hot-tempered back when I was younger. Like, right now, the thing that I basically put my foot down when someone earlier today, when I was like probably around when you came in, I was talking to Mika, and then James interrupted and dictated to me what I did and what I meant, and then sort of defending Mika, but I don't know why he's defending or being aggressive personally towards either of us, because we were working out miscommunications. So that's kind of the thing that can tell me something about what the other person has, and I haven't worked in that situation for long enough to encounter people who would drive me out of my patience. Oftentimes it's more like, hey, you know what, you said something, I disagree with you, and then you said another thing about me, and I wanted to clarify that what you're assuming is incorrect. Is that okay? Right? Like, well, I didn't ask, is that okay, because the person left before they had a chance. And to me, I have all the patience in the world most of the time, because I feel if you're able to tackle situations like that, I think life is far better, so to speak, for the person who has to manage that each and every day. You worked at Speedway and Kruger, made you get used to different customers. Oh, yes. Speedway, I would have to ask you how different it is between Speedway and Kruger, because Kruger, Kroger, I forgot how that's pronounced. Kroger, I remember, has really shining customer service, and it had something to also do with how well the staff members are also treated at that place. I think that's the same Kroger, and then Speedway is like a whole different situation. So it is kind of interesting to see how many different types of customers you had. I feel like Speedway and Kroger patrons would be segregated too. Like, what I mean by segregated is not intentionally segregated, but coincidentally they would have very particular properties. It's kind of like live streaming, and then there's a very distinct separation between someone you meet first on YouTube versus someone you meet on Twitch. And that's kind of what I mean by, I think the longest thing that could possibly test my virtues and my patience would be doing this, because the internet has no shortage of self-entitlement, or maybe self-righteousness. I think self-righteousness is probably a more accurate way to think about it. It is kind of humorous that I am at the receiving end of what happened earlier today. Usually I'm the person that doesn't say anything, and then someone that I know or is related to me comes to my defense when I wasn't really offended or worried about it. Like, it was very, I say this a lot, where when it comes to like quote unquote racism, I had many privileges in my life, and then many other not so great things, right? But I always appreciated, I suppose. I adored or appreciated that sometimes, while I didn't think much of it, or I thought honestly, I thought it was kind of funny. Like, I thought it was funny in these situations. I was very privileged to have people who would defend me out of concern. And that's kind of one of the trademarks of Americans. In my opinion, it's one of those things that kind of happen in the United States. I'm not sure about other countries because they live in other countries. But in the United States, one of the things are, someone comes to your defense. I mean, that's okay. I think we can make it work. We can communicate through our miscommunication, and I think that's what happened here online. Like, for whatever reason, I'm sure it was out of the kindness of the person's heart, or hopefully, like, I'll give James the benefit of the doubt, but somehow it led to viewing that two people are attacking each other or being upset with each other, like, or have some sort of personal vendetta. Like, that's what happened there. And it's kind of interesting to be at the other end. Obviously, instead of speaking for me or inferring what I'm doing and then making a victim out of Mika, I simply continue talking to Mika, because that's what people do to overcome misunderstandings. Not have someone else project who's right and who's wrong. Like, you don't need a referee for this. The fact that you encountered her before as well, you think so she's a frequent patron, because you know how ridiculous she can be, as mean as that may sound. Oh, I see. Interesting. Hear me out. 3. What if not drama? What the heck? Not drama? Wait, is that your old account? Wait, is that a coincidence? Oh, you changed your name, not drama. Okay. Right. So she came into Speedway a lot. A lot. Oh. Hear me out. What if one day you're like, you know her well enough, you would surprise her like, hey, do you have 21s? I have a 20 today. That would be kind of fun. It would be interesting. I don't know if did she seem upset? Like sometimes I have this romantic idea, but I don't think it usually ends up the way. But you know how when you see someone enough, right? You see them a lot and you notice some patterns in their behavior. So then if you know their patterns enough, you could change it. Well, what I mean is, like, say there's something that you know for sure happens like 9 out of 10 times. What if you found an opportunity to do just that one day and could change the way this person feels? You don't think she recognized you, so she was definitely annoyed? Oh, okay. Like that's pretty much where I was going. Like, maybe she doesn't know who you are, but what if you could be that person? She knows who you are. Like, I know this sounds romantic. I watch a lot of movies. I'm sorry. This is like a movie TV show situation. You know how that one person, they're so really in a routine and stuck in your own ways and stuff. There's a part of me that wants to own my own business. Like, I love the idea of, I know how this sounds. My father would roll in his, like, he would be really upset. Like, I always wondered of starting a restaurant, like, or a bakery, because the one thing I would love to be able to do is, if I'm not working for someone like a company or something, right? The thing is, if someone I notice is going to be a regular patron or a regular fixture in someone's life, if you can take just the one thing that you know 9 out of 10 times they're going to do this because you are observing it, right? And you give it an opportunity, it could change that person's life. And that's how I'm being romantic here, but it might not change anything. The idea is having the ability to do that when you're like an owner of a place or something. Sounds like something that I always often think about when someone is like, if I have a coworker that is around me constantly, this one pet peeve that they have where it keeps raising a funk about, I would do something about it. Not because it annoys me, but it's an opportunity to be able to do one thing that may like completely, change the impact of that person. And that's kind of what I think about each day. Like, I mean, I don't know what I've initiated or instigated with James today, but I imagine the person is very astute. They seem very educated. They throw around a lot of technical information, or they throw around a lot of jargon, and then they are very exact and incredibly confident in their assessments of things. So I imagine they are well put together and have other people to interact with. For myself, if, like, for example, I think you probably have already been aware of this, right? Like you and I have talked about a lot of things lately, very like publicly, more or less. This thing, in my opinion, is something that I can do, and I can do consistently. These conversations that we have, and that can lead to change. It can lead to something that can be fruitful, and that's kind of what my romanticism is whenever I think about it. When someone is consistently doing something over time, I would try to look at something or do something that honestly does not require that much sacrifice from me, but it can make the world of difference for someone else. So, someone says my life sucks like 99% of the time. Well, then 99% of the time I could do something to impact that 99%. Right? If it's so consistent, if this person is absolutely sure that every day sucks, then making one day suck less will mean the world of difference. Right? Humans love to work in contrast like that. If your life only slightly sucks, then if someone goes out of their way to make your life slightly suck less, it's not that significant. It's still good. Like, you can aim for that, but that's where you enter like diminished return territory. It's like, oh, this person's really happy. So if you're trying to make them happier, it might not feel as significant. But these are the situations whenever I think about like a customer or working customer service and stuff, I'm usually in a position where of all the days to be upset, not today. You do not be upset today if it's within my power, because oftentimes those individuals who have that somewhat abrasive, I'm not saying everyone, but generally speaking, that consistent abrasive feeling, you can upend it with one action, and then you be the one in 10,000 or 100,000 people they meet over their lifetime to leave an impression, at least in my opinion. Kroger was horrible. Oh, the management was absolutely horrible. Okay, so rude and condescending and would write you up for things that were unreasonable. Is this the same Kroger? The Kroger, are we talking about the same Kroger? The Kroger that has like on the internet, like they went viral and they're like expanding really quickly because their customer service is like incredibly high or something. I don't think I've ever stepped in one, but I remember hearing something about it expanding. Speedway started expanding upward towards where I am. So we do have a few sweet Speedways here. You love Speedway up until a new manager took over and you had a doctor's note explaining you had to be able to eat. We worked 8 to 12-hour shifts and we couldn't get any breaks. Oh, cool. He constantly schedule you alone. Yeah, you were the assistant manager. Oh, the one day you called someone in because you were literally going to pass out. He wrote you up and he didn't. And yeah, at least it's nice to hear that you like most of your managers at your current workplace. That must have been a great way to deflate your feelings about things. So it looks like you have a long history with poor management, or maybe even a diffusion of responsibility on management. That's nice to see that you have a really pleasant start on where you are now with more than one friendly manager. About your doctor's note, you contacted the TM and he took the side of the manager and you quit after that. Oh, jargon. Yeah, jargon. Drama, sorry. Is this how you spell jargon? Yeah, jargon as in a potentially esoteric words. Yeah, we were talking about grammar. And then that person specifically accused me of, when I say should, it should be something. It was interpreted as being criticizing someone else's grammar. And a lot of times criticizing is a very specific jargon. It's inferring that there's some unjustified intent. And I tried to clarify that, well, I made a comment on it to explain my misunderstanding. In no way was this to infer, which is what that person was, to infer that her grammar was incorrect. That is inference the person made. So they were criticizing me, criticizing her grammar. I'm like, I don't see how this involves you. But if you're trying to play the moral high ground, you let the two people that are involved in this conversation speak to each other. In fact, this wasn't the first time this person was out of touch. It's one of those moments that I feel like I'm talking to someone who's incredibly educated, who's maybe knows a lot of things, right? They believe that everything on the internet can explain something, and whatnot. It's a really big profile that this person creates. And even then, it's like out of touch. Can't read the room. So lots of jargon problems. You have no idea we're talking about the same Kroger. It has many different names depending on where you are in the US. Oh, it has a huge grocery store chain, also called Ralph's, Fred Meyer's, King, Scooper, Smith's, Dillon's, Fry's. Oh, hold up. Hang on. No. No. Maybe not. I'm not sure. It might have started with a K. Yeah, hard to tell. Hard to tell we're talking about the same one. I only glancingly listened to grocery, like I'm thinking of a grocery store. Kroger was a grocery store, right? And not a gas station. And Speedway is the gas station, right? Now there is a chance the Kroger, or like maybe like the Kroger I'm thinking of and the Speedway I'm thinking of is neither the things that you're talking about. So maybe I know Speedway as a gas station, and then Kroger as the grocery store chain. However, I have heard of Fry's, Ralph's, and Fred Meyer's. Oh, you said it's a huge grocery store chain. Okay, yeah. We're thinking about the same Kroger. But for whatever reason, I didn't think Kroger was given that impression of having poor. Sorry, I just realized I reread your message and I realized I missed the grocery store chain. So they have all those names? That's interesting. I had no idea all those chains are related. Google jargon and came across the article title, "Is Gen Z's slang ruining the way we communicate?" Yeah, jargon. Yep. Slang would be under the umbrella of jargon, I guess. Yeah. How is jargon defined nowadays by AI? Okay, we'll just use Oxford instead. Special words or expressions that are used by a particular profession or group that are difficult for others to understand. Yeah. Yep. Oh, I remember this archaic use of it. Yeah, archaic use is gone now, where it's a form of language regarded as barbarous, debased, or hybrid. So that type of jargon is like slang. Slang would be, it would capture the feeling of slang, but nowadays slang is not like the archaic use of uh jargon, which used to be like diminished, derivative, or there's a B word for this, but I don't usually use this word, but you know how the lesser version of things like pineapple pizza situation, or like fake Chinese food situation, you know, like the lesser terms. Nowadays jargon is that like a bit of the fancy word for people with their fancy words. So the person that I was kind of butting heads with a little bit in a like dry way, I suppose, I'm sure I barely even hurt that person's feelings. I'm not even entirely sure if that person has feelings publicly, any emotional attachments. What you call it, the jargon is that this person used and criticized in a manner that they use words that are exacting, that makes them sound like they are above the people that they are talking to. So not necessarily because it's possibly a word you don't understand, but more so word used in a way that I feel the person was trying to demonstrate that they are right when they're not even in the conversation. So jargon, that's I'm not sure if jargon has evolved from that. Like for example, we could be talking about SRS, and then someone comes along and say like, I don't know what SRS is. Well, let me explain the technicalities of SRS. You wouldn't understand, but SRS stands for space repetition, you know, I don't even know what it is. Space repetition system, right? That's jargon. Like how there's a connotation and a syntax, or like a feel, a diction feel to surrounding jargon too. And I do get that. I do that unintentionally as well. So I'm not saying that the other person has any intent. I can't read the person's intent really, other than when they assume that I was trying to correct someone. That's the only time I knew that, yeah, you're speaking for me and you're speaking for another person. That's not jargon anymore. It's personal. Well, Kroger has a gas station. Oh, but it's usually a part of the grocery store. Speedway is just a gas station, yes. They were owned by Marathon. Yes, Marathon gas station. But they decided to split off on their own, only to be bought out by 7-Eleven. Yeah, I heard about that too. 7-Eleven let them to keep the name. Yes. Yeah, so we're talking about the same Speedway as well. Same Speedway. There was a Hess. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hess gas stations. But the Hess sold it to Marathon. Then that Marathon gas station got rebranded to Speedway. And then recently I heard that 7-Eleven purchased Speedway. But I found out that Speedway stayed a Speedway because 7-Eleven did not rebrand the Speedway thing. Companies. Oh, you know what? I learned a new Z slang. I'm not sure if this is because it's an old one coming back, but I did learn a new one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, and I didn't realize it was being used for a while. So I watch a lot of food stuff, right? And recently, there's a new word that I don't know, it might not be that new. The word glazing in a different context now. And glazing is sycophant. I'm going to use a fancy jargon now. Sycophant. Or sycophantic. Is it sycophantic or sycophantive? Alright, I think it might be sycophantic. If you want some practice into some jargon. A sycophant. So glazing is related to the idea of what a sycophant does. And I was watching a lot of food things, right? And people were using this derogatorily, or like maybe like in a negative, it's stigmatized. And I was like, oh, is that a new word? It's relatively new, like relatively. And what I mean by relatively new word, I mean usage. A relatively new usage. So like, for example, if I'm overly nice to you right now and say, oh, hey, that's awesome. Like, keep on doing what you're doing. It's like, oh yeah, go get him, Tiger. Like, you're gonna rule the world. That's glazing. As in, like, you're overly flattery. There's over flatter, and like what a sycophant does. Where, so a lot of times, food travelers. This comment came up quite often. It's like, oh yeah, this person, all they do is just glaze. Like they glaze over all the food. And I'm like, what does that mean? So recently, I believe, in my opinion, usually I haven't ever seen glazing being used in a way that replaces like a shill. For example, a shill glazes. A shill is older than glaze, or glazer, I guess. I don't know if glazer is a thing yet, but that's a new Gen Z usage in my opinion. So now overly flattering people, or people who do it quote unquote for the views, or do it for that sponsorship, right? That type of thing, or being a shill, the word glaze is what I've learned recently. Most of Gen Z slang became popular early 2020. Yeah, that's kind of where my cutoff is at the moment. However, the words themselves can be grounded in something long ago. Hello there, Proko. Hello. Wait, you're back. Is it reading day yet? Are you almost done with your current semester? I'm gonna do this and then we're gonna take a break and then come back with a yap. Oh, by the way, Proko, I learned something that I've been keeping in my back pocket for when you stop by again. So, Proko, you're the one that introduced me to QI, right? Soon, our worlds are gonna collide. Our parasocial worlds are gonna collide. Proko, you're going winter break in about 2 weeks, so not long left. Nice. I hope your exams and preps and stuff are going well. And it's gonna collide in QI, our parasocial worlds. And the parasocial world is connected by Hank Green. Because Hank Green is going to appear in QI. He was one of the guests recently, and they finished recording. He was sharing it in his vlog, of course. So you will be able to see Hank Green in a show you introduced me to, because I wouldn't have known what the heck Hank Green was talking about Well, he did explain what QI is, but I already knew what QI was because of you. And he did something even crazier. He was bragging because he asked for the host's cards, the QI cards. And he showed off that he had the stack of the QI cards for the episodes that they recorded. So he was excited, so he came back and he talked about being a guest on QI. So there you go. The moment I heard him mention, it's like, no way, it can't be the same show that I watched like 4 or 5 episodes because of Pro Call. It is. I specifically remember you were the one, right? I hope it's not Gecko. This would be really awkward if it's Gecko. I'm pretty sure QI came from you, and Taskmasters came from either you or Gecko. Yeah, you haven't seen him as a guest on QI. You'll have to give that a watch. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it too. Like whenever it airs. I don't. He said he wasn't able to share the details because the episode hasn't aired yet. That's really neat. Parasocial worlds colliding. I did have other things to tell you, but I don't remember now. Oh yeah, lately I've been talking to someone who currently resides in the UK. More on that later. It was you, and you're pretty sure your recommendation was due to you bringing up the fact that Gecko introduced you to Taskmaster. Yes, exactly. So that's where the connection was. I'm like, it wasn't Taskmaster, it was definitely QI, and then Gecko was Taskmaster, and Taskmaster is still going too. It's interesting to see new faces. When Hank was showing a bit of a clip of like the current QI thing, they've since moved and exchange host and stuff, and I recently also saw a glimpse of Taskmaster, YouTube algorithm, right? Taskmaster on like a YouTube short, and like, oh hey, all the hosts and the hosts also changed on Taskmaster. Pretty neat. Just thought I'd share. Yeah. Other than that, Shrinking is a really great show. I don't know if you're into Apple TV stuff, but Shrinking is a really great show. Alright. Yeah, how are you doing otherwise? How's university going? It's been quite some time. How are you feeling? You haven't heard of it? You'll look it up? Ooh, Shrinking. It's this Shrinking, and it's a play on words, sort of, but it's the shrink from the psychology. The meaning of the title is a play on sort of psychology, literally, and also figuratively. So this show was fantastic. So far. It's actually fantastic so far. It's not even over yet. So other than that, we talk about, like, loosely talk about politics a lot. Bree and we watched Diplomat, and Diplomat is really a fun dramatization, and it deals with US UK relations, so there's that. That's also something that might pique your interest. It's kind of fun to talk about commentaries since you are from the UK, right? It's been going well. You've got tests in the end of... Oh, it's in January. Interesting. Which you've been studying for, and you've been doing well in a more general life sense as well. Excellent. Lately, a lot of my personal time has been used for managing and interacting with various people. So those are going they've been very educational. Like I'm encountering quite a lot of challenges, and those challenges are making each day really bright and interesting. lots of things going on. Maybe at some point I'll be able to make even more of that as we speak. Here's something that I could share with like whoever's here, I suppose. So last time we talked about like rollouts of features, right? So there is this one feature that YouTube has introduced, right? And it hasn't rolled out to everyone, but I finally got rolled out to it, and that's A/B testing. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with A/B testing, but when you're perusing, like, I don't know if Twitch has something like this. It would be kind of interesting. YouTube has this thing where you can assign multiple it's called A/B testing, but multiple titles and thumbnails. So then when you're searching YouTube, it can choose one of these, and then it can tell you which one was successful to gain an impression, etc. So it would have metrics attached to the A or the B or even a C, right? And there was one place that I thought maybe we can meet halfway. You know, I used to joke about the idea of those videos that say, after 5,000 hours, these are the secrets that I learned. That type of thing, right? And oftentimes I was very refractory to this, because if this forms the majority of my content, then I would actually have to do all these hours, right? And then make all my titles like these. This is where we talked about how summarizing things, hustle culture, that type of thing. I don't quite like dedicating to this. However, because we have A/B testing, I can test a theory. I can literally generate the data now. So, since I've recorded every single day, right? So we've already passed our 300 days. But I do have those review days. So there's a opening opinion on day 1, and there's one for 100, 200, and 300. I am gonna A/B test with the titles, just to make sure that my concept is correct, as in my understanding of how algorithm. So for day 1's, it's gonna be, why did I choose to use X in year? Because I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a little hot take, and the X is gonna be the viral thing, right? Often the keyword. So, like, for example, my first day 1 would be, why did I choose to use Duolingo in 2024? So we're gonna A/B test that. The A is just gonna stay the same. It's just gonna say day 1, Duolingo, etc. Right? However, I can almost tell you for sure based on converging evidence, but we do need testing. So 100 would be phrased in a form of a question, and then also talk about, like, what have I learned after using, X for X days. right? So it's going to be this and this for all of the stuff. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now, where we're going to use what I believe is the syntax of algorithm of like the most common search result algorithm stuff, like whys, hows, when, and no answers in the title, right? No like general summary in title, no like a blanketed statement, which is what I usually use, like day 100 of this. That's a blanketed statement that generalizes the whole thing. It doesn't actually convey the points or the task. It's not framed in a way that would answer a question or be the question someone is looking for. So when we do this, I'll let you know in a couple. It'll be interesting, but it probably only take like a month. I can, and here's why I'm comfortable with that, just as a fun little social experiment. Why am I comfortable with this? Because when they do that, if they're looking and that B attracts them to this day, it is surrounded by 99 plus days on both ends. So I'm not changing all the other videos. And we're going to see how it impacts someone's critique by knowing that when they see whatever I'm summarizing here, there are nearly hundreds of hours flanking the thing, which is something that I don't believe is popular for now, or potentially done. And that's where the big social experiment is happening. This is a new feature, so the idea is if there's a new feature, I'll try to use it and see if it like it can do in a workflow. I remember that Hank actually spoke to John and worked on A/B testing. Yeah, you'd be very see what comes of it. Yeah, because now I can still stick. So A/B testing means that A will still show up, right? A will still show up among the videos. So the question is it possible to have someone listen or be interested in a long format within a longer format? Hank and John actually had this fun conversation back and forth about A/B testing recently, because they recently tested it on one of John Green's so John posted a video about him going to Thailand. I think it was Thailand. Hopefully I didn't get it mixed up with Philippines or something. I believe it's Thailand. It was one of the countries that were at risk for TB, right? And he had a specific title. And then when I clicked on it again, I saw another title, right? They didn't change the thumbnail. They specifically changed the title of the stuff. And Hank blogged back, in Vlogbars and said, hey, I was right, or something like that, where he was being cheeky about it. It's like, oh, we made a more interesting title and it was unanimous, like even despite having a beautiful editing or great messages or something wholesome, the title ended up pulling an incredible impact. Not even the thumbnails, actually. It says it's not even the thumbnails that much. So now I'm genuinely curious. Anyways, that's something that I'm excited to be working on in a bit. Whenever there's a feature rolled out, we're gonna try to test it out. Anyways, so may I ask, do you have, okay, so you said 2 weeks from winter vacation. So you have exams after winter vacation as opposed to before winter vacation? How does that work? Explain. Yeah, I'm gonna go through this routine and then we're gonna move to Hanzahiro. Today's a good yap day. Good for the yaps. It's coincidental. Coincidental. Let's see. Let's do our reads into our definition. It's weird. You have a few weeks of winter break. Okay. Then you have an exam week. Oh. I'll have to come back to uni for. Then have another 2 weeks off. And then the next term starts. Oh. Oh, so they're giving you... Oh, that's interesting. That gives you even more time. So I guess it's like a reading week for the first 2 weeks. For the exam, and then you have the rest of your break. In the if I can recall accurately, it's kind of similar in a way, and we call them reading weeks. So there's like 1 week, maybe 1.5 weeks, where before the exams, it's the reading week. So it's the week that you use to study for the exams, and then the proper break happens then. But it looks like you have, it's like evenly spread. If I remember, it used to be we have like a week plus the weekend, so it'd feel like 9 days. Then you have all your exams, and then it would be like 3 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks before you come back for the new term. Interesting. Your reading week seems longer. Do you like that? What do you do? Do you prepare for the week exam? Most of your winter break? You like the first half of your winter break? Alright. Let's see. Q, long time. Jo, preface. Sure. Or not sure. She. I don't want to talk about it. She, intention. On kindness. Sai, gather. Sakura. Sakura. Eternity, Eki, fluid or liquid, gun, eyeballs, eyeballies, eyes, soul, descendant, Eki, Eki wa achievement, defense, good. Ne? Duplicate. Zatsu. Random. San, agree. Sen, coin. Ha. Domesticate. Sho, woon. Woon. To, party. Tamago. Eggs. Ko, into. O. Dirty, yoku, want, dan, warm, skue, desk, yaku, translation, and sen, die. You're going to head off to bed now, but it was having a quick catch up with you. Best wishes for the rest of your site. Yeah, thanks. You rather have the exam before winter break, but you don't mind this one. I see. Thanks for stopping by, Prokal. Yeah, good luck, sleep well. We'll have to exchange some things for 2026. you know, discuss a little bit of 2026 when you're on break or something like that. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. It was very nice indeed. Yes, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. All right, folks, that's a wrap for WaniKani today. You're gonna watch this later. Arigatou gozaimasu, right? Feel free to follow along, pick up WaniKani for yourself, give it a try. Let me know what you think. Again, you're free to yap. Share your yap. I know today was a little bit, I don't know how to describe it, but we could certainly have talked it out. But that's yapping for you. Exchange ideas, exchange opinions. Perhaps if the person was far more committed, we would unpack. But generally speaking, I think I voiced my concerns in a very, I like to think I was trying to be as reasonable as possible. I don't feel that it's very appropriate most of the time, despite whether someone is correct objectively or not. That this is my personal opinion here. I don't think it's personally appropriate whether you're objectively correct or not, and you become pedantic enough to correct people over and over again, can often form the foundation of trust or mutual respect. I think it's incredibly risky is the word I would use. It's incredibly risky to provide criticism about other people's commentary when you yourself, in my opinion, would also be there to listen to that criticism and defend and respond to that. So, as I said, you're welcome to yap, share, discuss, push back and forth. The mutual challenges and the sticking to it and working through it through criticism and whatnot, at least in my opinion, are the foundations in which you build solidarity between, oh, now I'm just sounding like a politician, huh? Solidarity between people. I don't think it is within, like, I don't think people are omniscient and able to do things perfectly and correct by somehow having assumed their clairvoyance. So most of the time those people don't end up staying around for too long because they don't actually share, they talk at the person from my experience. So this is a natural progress. So come what may, yeah, you can come by and yap and talk at me. And there's no obligation to stay either or defend yourself or be open to critique or not. Ultimately though, if someone is able to critique me and criticize me about criticizing other people, I would think, in my opinion, much like I'm opening generosities to yapping and whatnot, that would also imply that the person who's doing it is able to also handle that. And in this case, one clearly does, and we already had the room, and then the other chose to third wheel, and they were probably correct. Sometimes it can be very difficult for someone to communicate without emotional intelligence. It's kind of a little disappointing because I really thought we established the idea of the importance of emotional intelligence. And yet, whenever this person comes to speak and talk to another person, they only exercise emotional selfishness as opposed to emotional intelligence. That is still part of emotional intelligence, right? I'm not saying it's exclusive. Emotional intelligence is both inward and outward.
So whenever you're going around presenting like, oh, it's always about fun, or how fun it is to people, how entertaining it is to people, and then you start talking about other people as though you understand them, and they simply tell you again and again that you've misread the intention, that would be a great indicator to be maybe excited to sit there and listen and observe. But instead, I feel like aggressively, this person chooses to project what they think is what someone else is doing. And usually I ask them to defend that. If they're unable to defend that, then it means that they simply want it, in my opinion, my interpretation is they simply want it to be pedantic and stir up animosity, that they are the neutral ground. And I don't necessarily think we need referees when exchanging ideas. If I am being aggressive and condescending, you can suggest that if I'm actually directed towards you. But when you're trying to referee other people's conversations and misreading the room, and both individuals say the same thing, then I'm not entirely sure what the goal was. And my greatest criticism about that is when someone believes that they know how, or the right way, that two people are talking to each other, despite that the two people who are talking to each other are trying to talk out what the miscommunication is. Like, you did not put any time into reading that, so that's what I'm offering, right? Yapping, sharing, describing, being invested. No singular hiccup will be more powerful, or powerful enough to break a open dialogue that is already existing really, really well. Like, the more problems, the more communication, miscommunication even, the more robust, in my opinion, the relationship could be. I don't think communication and understanding is built on some sort of explanation that everyone seems to know how to do. And that, to me, was what I found incredibly alarming from my conversations with very well-educated people, I imagine. Incredibly knowledgeable people. Probably not so much experienced people. And it goes to show you how quickly they leave and not continue to try to reach some sort of compromise. If you don't like what you're hearing and you're avoiding it, that is your prerogative. However, appealing to that person's objectivity, if you left and you avoid that, you're not the one that's learning anything. I am. I learned something because I'm willing to stay here and try to navigate that, learn from it. So it's pretty disappointing. It's not sad. It's pretty disappointing that someone who had presented themselves as like this is openly public, so it's not like I'm taking any words out of context, like any words that aren't available to everyone. But this person presented themselves as someone who believes they understand emotional intelligence, understand how learning, they inculcated and agreed with me in various topics of critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, maybe appreciate communication and communication skills on top of language learning. And yet when they go to exercise it, it didn't show very much. They projected rights and wrongs, absolutes, and who's right and who's wrong, even in an argument or a conversation that person wasn't even in. That to me is maybe a hyper-vigilant person who may not necessarily have the emotional intelligence to read the room. Yet, perhaps they'll find their special place. I don't expect to consistently see this person anymore. That's usually what happens over time. And I'm no more sad about it. Disappointing, maybe, but no more really sad. There was no obligation. So once again, to conclude this section, you're more than welcome to yap, talk at me, use avoidant behavior. Feel free. I certainly am not going anywhere. If you're willing to share something, talk about something, or just tell me something about the world, I suppose. And apparently the world deals with the idea that people's perfect grammar is somehow the reason why people have miscommunication, or like don't have miscommunication. I can assure you that having perfect grammar and making mistakes and also even criticizing other people's grammar is not quite the point of the miscommunication. To me, I think that is very myopic. It's not quite misinformation. However, I think it's disinformation. You used another reason in order to end communication with people. I think eventually it was bound to happen, right? So for that, I know it's a little bit of a negative point. However, we've talked. I'm trying to cultivate picking up heavy challenges of these things. Like, I would not be able to learn if you decide to say, no, you're wrong. And I feel like that is where we were at. Like, oh, hey, you're doing it wrong. Thanks. And how does that help? And like, how are we gonna move forward in learning each other? Oh, you leave. Okay, well, you're not interested in helping someone learn. Like, from my perspective, learning is mutual. So let's try to learn together. Keep each other motivated, share in between, ask questions, relate. You having a trouble deciding between leftover chicken parm and red velvet loaf cake? What's a red velvet loaf cake? As a snack? Are those both savory, Brie? Is the red velvet loaf cake savory? And you can't have both, right? You can only have one. How about this? How about this? Could you take half of the chicken parm and half of the velvet loaf cake, have that half, and then save the other half of halves? Like, you know what I mean? Like, would that be a crazy idea too? So you have like, you're split, right? You're split between chicken parm and then the loaf. But what if you did this and consume this and then consume the other later? Know what I mean, Bree? If that's possible. I think that would be a win-win situation. Well, maybe. And hear me out. I got even one. If you're gonna, what's in your mind right now is like, bud, I really feel like if I started eating the parm, I want the rest. Then you have your answer. I mean, you guess it's more like dinner. It's 10 p.m., but since you took a nap, you didn't eat dinner. Oh, you suppose you could have both? Red velvet loaf cake is basically the same as a regular red velvet cake, but kind of bready texture. Oh, so it's sweet. So it's sweet. So you have the choice between sweet. Oh, but you gotta have sweet and savory. Nah, you gotta have sweet and savory. Can you divide it in half? I'm like, leading you a little bit. So pardon me, I'm leading you a little bit. Where if you like sweet or savory, you probably have your answer. However, you mentioned to have both. I think you like. I don't think you've ever. Brie, you don't strike me as someone who goes easy on yourself. So I think after a long day's work, and your feet hurt, it practically makes you cry. Having both seems like a wonderful thing, as long as it doesn't upset your stomach. You know, like make something else worse. I think you're already hard enough on yourself in general. Having both, as long as it doesn't lead to other problems, right? Sounds great. I think sweet and savory does have to go together though. Eating something, in my opinion, eating only sweet things and only savory things, it's not as balanced. There are 7 slices of a loaf cake, you'll just have a piece or 2 and then have the rest of chicken parm. There isn't much of that left. Oh, yeah. And then you can pair something else savory with your leftover loaf cake. Yeah. You gotta have more, like in my opinion, savory, sweet, maybe have like, if you have like a slightly citrusy drink, that might lighten up the palate as well. So you have a bit of sour, right? Citrus acid added to some of these things are fantastic. Time to have your cake and eat it too. Yeah, that's exactly it. Have your cake and eat it. Piece of cake, right? Oh, that I just realized that's a pun. But yes, piece of cake. Problem solved, or crises averted. Right, crises averted. All right. Thanks for that share. That's a great, bright way to end something. Sometimes you gotta treat yourself. I think if you get a W, Bree, definitely give yourself a W. Like, I think at the moment, whenever I think about the mindset you have, it can only go up when you're treating yourself now that you're having to do a lot of other things. So I'm glad to hear that you have a lot of pleasures still in your life, right? Like eating is a fantastic way to try to elevate one's mood, especially after a hard day's work. All right, folks, that's a wrap for WaniKani session today. So for those who are only interested in WaniKani, 皆さんまたね。見てくれてありがとう. Right? Thanks for watching. I'm gonna get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, maybe grab a light snack too. I mean, kind of, what is that word? It's like a British term for having the munchies. I'm feeling a little bit nippy as well, so I'm gonna go grab a snack. Oh, peckish. Thank you, Mika. Peckish. Yeah, I'm feeling slightly peckish, so I'm gonna go travel in my time machine and go grab some classic peckish food, right? And then I'll be back. Yes. All right. Be right back. Thank you.